All right, and welcome to our third Mindfulness Facilitator Workshop course. So this one is mindfulness and emotional regulation. So in the first one, we looked at the science of the brain. On the second one, we looked at stress reduction a little more deeply. And then this one, we're really diving into that ability for us to regulate our emotional responses. So let's take a look. This is the third of our 3 workshops to complete the content. So a quick overview of this workshop. This follows very similar agenda than all of our previous workshops. We have that defining mindfulness, a reflection on why it works. We'll have a slideshow with Nancy Candea, the creator of this workshop. We will practice some techniques and have a little time reflecting on those techniques, and then taking that time to practice teaching, reflection on that through a worksheet, and then our metta meditation to close. So just like the previous 2 workshops, the requirements for this workshop, attending this 2-hour training and completing the worksheets. Complete the weekly homework assignments, which includes a 10-minute practice of any of the skills that we practice today in this video, and then journaling those reflections. And while there is a PDF available to fill this out on hard copy, there is the link to submit this homework assignment after 4 weeks of doing that daily practice, and then you will get that certificate. So we ask this question in every one of the workshops, and by now you may have a different definition. You may have a much more clear and intentional definition of what mindfulness is. So let's revisit what that worksheet shows. All right, so as we did in the last 2 workshops, you have a 4-page worksheet that will move along with this training. So we have the certification requirements, that defining mindfulness, the science of mindfulness. This is where you can take some notes about the things that Nancy will give in her presentation. We have some mindfulness practices, moving into that grounding practice, the breath work, the meditations, and we're going to explore some of the asana or yoga poses that may work for you. And then moving into that reflection on managing obstacles, filling in that worksheet, practicing teaching with someone, whether you're doing this program with another person side by side, or whether you want to go away and practice and then come back later to complete that part of the workshop. And then finally we have ending with our metta meditation. So coming back to that defining mindfulness. Mindfulness is the cultivation of being in the present moment without judgment. Maybe that means something a little bit different to us now after we've spent a couple of months working on this. As soon as you take the time to judge if something is good or bad, right or wrong, we've stepped out of the present moment and therefore stepped out of that mindfulness. Mindfulness practices engage us in the here and now. We can be mindful of our surroundings, what we're doing, what we see, how we feel, what we're thinking about, and how internal processes like digestion or breathing feel. All of these are ways in which we can bring ourselves into the present moment and into mindfulness. Mindfulness is awareness that we bring to our thinking and our actions. So these practices include breathing, mindfulness techniques, meditation, creativity, singing, prayer, and focused activities. So again, we just have that reflection about how do you share this idea with someone who maybe you feel could benefit from the practice of mindfulness. Maybe you could help them find that connection. So, how do you explain to them what it is? How do you help spark that curiosity for the people that you care about to dive into some of these practices and start to see the benefit of them? Considering that question, maybe you had some time to think about this. Is there anything that you can't bring mindfulness to? Thinking about all of those different things, you might have some instant ideas that pop up, and then realize, like, oh, actually, I could bring mindfulness to that. And then maybe exploring some of those everyday activities that you could bring more mindfulness to. So different things that we do, whether it's preparing a meal, doing those routine things that sometimes our mind drifts away. Like, how can you practice, and not just thinking about this, but actually putting it into practice, maybe making that part of your homework, and seeing how it changes your experience from moment to moment. So we'll move on to this next page in the 4-page worksheet that you have attached. And this, it has some of the images that you will see in the presentation from Nancy. So this is a great place to just take some notes. And let's take a look at that slideshow presented by Nancy Candea.
Hi, my name is Nancy Candea, and I really want to welcome you to Yoga Impact's Mindfulness Facilitator Training. Today, we're going to talk about mindfulness and emotional regulation. So let's get started on that. So we have, we're just going to start with really kind of getting an understanding of the nervous system. So the central nervous system is comprised of the brain and the spinal cord. Okay. And then we have a peripheral nervous system, which is the nerves coming off of the spinal cord, and they go to the arms and the legs, the internal organs. And basically, the nervous system is made up of neurons, and how they work is almost like putting a plug in a socket. They're actual electrical currents. And what we spend time thinking about and feeling gets hardwired. Okay. And so some of the things that we're thinking about and feeling about aren't useful to us. So we do the mindful work of unplugging and plugging into something that's more useful. And it's often takes a few times practice. And that's where mindfulness practices come in because of how they affect the nervous system. So let's dive into that a little deeper. So how our nervous system responds to stress. Okay, so we have this is called polyvagal theory. And in polyvagal theory says that there are parts of your nervous system that are hooked up to different responses in the body, different energy levels. In yoga theory, in yoga philosophy, this is actually called the gunas. It's a real old word. And it's like you have high energy, you have low energy, and you have balanced energy. And in a healthy system, these move around. Okay. We go to sleep, they go down a little bit. We go on a roller coaster, they go up. We're sitting quietly, they're balanced. Okay. And that there's parts of our body that are kind of feed into these different states. Okay. So in our ventral vagal is a state of calm. We're social, we're thriving, we're able to, be around people. Things are going really well. Okay. And then we have what's called our sympathetic nervous system, which is this kind of higher energy. In yoga, it's called rajasic energy. And that's where we're in the middle green box. We're playful, we're art, we're doing things. Our stress is a little high. We're dance, we're exercising. And then we're going to go into the tamasic, the slower energy, which is where we're going to take a nap, we're going to rest, we're going to do our mindfulness practices, we're going to rest, we're going to repair, we're going to rejuvenate, we're going to sleep. Okay. The thing is that we can get these parts of the sympathetic and dorsal vagal part of our nervous system can also go in a negative direction when there's high stress. Okay. So our sympathetic nervous system can go into, there's a tiger in the room, there's danger, I got to fight, I got to mobilize, there's a threat, I got to keep going, I got to push, push, push. And so we're in that heightened anxiety. Okay. And another response called in the dorsal vagal part of the body could be this tamasic response, this low energy response, is where we freeze, we collapse, okay? We faint, we disassociate, okay? So what we need to do, and this is to have awareness of these things, because these are emotional responses. They're a combination of our nervous system and our hormone system working together, and they create an emotional response. It's a lot of theory, but that was just a real quick. But let's look at it again in this little bigger format. So this is our nervous system kind of playing around. Parasympathetic nervous system, calm. Sympathetic nervous system, playful, kind of up energy. These are moving around. We feel connected. We feel courageous. But when the stress level is too high, or it's been too high in the past, we can get stuck in a negative. Okay, negative meaning we wish it wasn't happening, parasympathetic response, and a negative sympathetic response, okay, where our emotions are being pulled into this place of high stress. I don't know how to respond. Sometimes when people get into their collapse, they freeze, they disassociate, we actually have to move them up through anger and really feeling things on that deeper level in order then to get them so that they can get back into these healthier emotional places. So what we have here is just a little, it's like a little map. So how are we going to map out the sense of emotional wellness? I feel safe. I feel connected. I'm engaged with what's happening. I'm confident. I'm compassionate. I'm hopeful. So these are all kind of the emotions that we're trying to more live at, because it's basically a healthier response to our physical and mental health. So down at the bottom here are some emotions of what we would consider like negative. So it's sympathetic. We feel threatened. We feel frustrated. I'm agitated. I'm embarrassed. I'm scared. I'm offended. I want to run. I'm demanding. I'm hyperactive. Okay. And the problem is remember, those are safety responses, but if we get stuck in them, then they become emotional responses that somebody asks us how we're doing and we're responding from feeling frustrated or threatened. Okay. On the other side of this is we could have that dorsal vagal response, which is somebody asks us how we're doing. We feel shame, trapped, depressed, hopeless, shut down, numb, blank, isolated, zoned out, bored, apathetic. So what are the practices that we can do to rise us up from one of these if we get stuck in one of these feelings? Okay, so that's what we're going to work on in the rest of the training.
All right, so a lot of fun and new, interesting information, this polyvagal theory, and even a little bit of translation into the gunas of the yoga philosophy. So go ahead, take notes down, pause the video if you would like, and maybe even have some reflections as we move on to the next spot. Right, and it's time to move on with some mindfulness practices. So we will have Sheridan, Brittany, and myself taking us through some of these practices. And please have some space available because we have incorporated that asana practice. So we're going to get up and move around a little bit too to really experience how that mindful movement can affect our ability to regulate our emotional responses. All right, so the practices we're going to be doing today with our grounding practices, we have our body scan and our gratitude awareness. For breath work, we're going to be working with a 3-part breath. And then for our asana, we'll play around with some balance poses and really thinking about what poses can shift our energy if we're feeling low. Some of those more tamasic types of energies that Nancy was talking about, and what poses can help us bring down the energy if we are feeling a little bit more in that rajasic or high energy. And then finally, we'll end with some fun meditations. We have a laughter meditation. Again, this is one of those meditations that can kind of lift the energy a bit, kind of bring us out of that heavy tamasic state. And then we have a deep listening. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We have Sheridan who's going to take us through our body scan today.
Beautiful. First, just start by finding a comfortable seat, maybe placing both feet firmly on the ground, maybe resting hands on your body or on your chair. Just arriving here, maybe shaking anything out that needs to move and finding some stillness. Softening the gaze over the tip of your nose or closing down the windows of your eyes if it feels safe in your body. Bringing in some of that inner awareness. And bringing that awareness to your body here. Starting with our feet, the soles of our feet. Noticing everywhere that our feet make contact with the earth here. Maybe noticing the toes, ball mounds of our feet, our heels. Noticing that contact, noticing the exchange of energy from our body to the earth and from the earth to our bodies. Moving very slowly up our body, making our way through our ankles, our shins and calves. Visualizing this journey, pausing anywhere that asks for a little bit more attention. Making our way to our kneecaps, backs of our knees. Finding ourselves at our thighs and our hamstrings. Pausing here for a moment to notice where our body is making contact with whatever is holding us up, whether it's the ground or a chair or a cushion. Noticing here the backs of our legs, our sits bones, firmly held. by the chair, the cushion. Again, pausing with this exchange of energy, just noticing. Moving our awareness up towards our hips, our low belly, maybe our low backs. If we're sitting in a chair, noticing how the back of that chair makes contact with our spine. Again, giving pause to that energy exchange. Noticing our bellies and our solar plex. Moving all the way to our heart space. Arriving at our throat and our neck. Moving to our shoulders and down our arms. Noticing where the palms of our hands make contact, either with our bodies or our chairs. Noting once again that energy exchange. Moving back to our head and our face. Intentionally stopping at our mouth, our jaw, our nose, eyes, ears, forehead, and the space right above the top of our head. Sending that awareness to all of those points of contact, to all of those energy exchanges, sending some breath and kindness to anywhere in our body that asked for it along that journey. And as you feel complete here, bringing that awareness to fingers and toes, giving them a little wiggle, maybe in your shoulders, and blinking those eyes open, arriving back at our space together.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm excited to take us through our gratitude awareness. So let's go ahead and settle in for that. All right. So for our gratitude awareness, we'll have us find that comfortable seat again. So if you're in a chair, with your feet on the floor, perhaps if you're sitting on the floor or on a cushion, maybe just noticing what's connected to the ground. Begin to feel all of those points of contact with whatever supports the body has as you soften into the breath. I'll invite you to either find a soft gaze. Times just if you're sitting at a table, just letting your eyes fall to the space right in front of you. Or if it feels good to close the eyes, you can feel free to do that. We'll just use the breath to anchor yourself in the present moment. Our minds are always so easily pulled to busyness. So bring particular attention to feeling the breath. Something in the body as you bring your shoulders down and orient your intention toward a sense of gratitude. So next we'll bring to mind a sight that you're grateful for. Moving through your senses. Finding one thing to start that you appreciate that comes to you from the world of sight. If vision is not accessible to you, perhaps feeling that sense through imagination. It could be a color, a shadow, a shape, a movement. Remember, it will never be like this again. All right, I don't like that. Let's redo it. Okay. All right, so next we're going to slip into that gratitude, awareness, meditation, grounding practice. So I'll just have you feel whatever part of your body is connected to the ground at this moment. Allow yourself to start settling into the space. Whether you're sitting on the ground or sitting in a chair, just let your body sink in. Find softness. So we just let ourselves bring our attention to the feeling of the breath. Noticing how easily the breath flows in and out of the body. The shoulders draw down as we start to bring our attention towards this sense of gratitude. Maybe a sense of gratitude for that next breath. How easily it comes. Next, we'll move our senses to the sense of light, if that is available to you. You can bring to mind maybe a color or a shape. Maybe recalling something that visually took your breath away. And while you just ponder that ability to see, allow yourself to feel a sense of gratitude for what that is. Begin to shift your attention to the sense of smell. Maybe bringing in memories of fresh baked food, flowers, or even that smell of a crisp, cool morning. Again, just allowing yourself to ponder the gift of that sense of smell. And again, bringing yourself back to that sense of gratitude. As we move into the sense of hearing, the sounds, maybe recalling some of your favorite sounds. Maybe some sounds that bring on a visceral feel, bring comfort. Maybe the sound of children laughing, or the sound of a loved one's breathing, the sound of the beating of your own heart. And again, just bringing yourself back to that sense of gratitude. Maybe just begin to allow your mind to bring in all of the objects around you, maybe the people around you in your life. Maybe your friendships, relationships, maybe a job that you really love. Maybe a hobby or a pastime fills you with joy. Just allow yourself to settle into that sense gratitude for those moments and for those things. Then bringing ourselves back into the body, returning to that breath. Taking that moment to just honor the awesomeness of our own bodies, minds, abilities to feel. As we take our next deep breath, we just begin to find a little movement. We allow ourselves just to come back to this space with that reignited feeling of gratitude we can carry with us. All right, for our breath work, we are going to start that with Brittany today.
Okay, third module, mindfulness. The breath work for this module is called our 3-count breath. I think there's a few different names for this, but the way that this uh, kind of goes, the practice of it is that we are going to take three short, quick inhales in succession, and then one slow exhale. So this builds on our practices in the last few modules of really being able to control the inhale, exhale a little bit more mindfully and notice kind of some different breathwork practice and how that affects our nervous systems, our bodies, how it makes us feel. So as usual, we're going to get grounded in our seat. Let your hips feel heavy. The soles of your feet land on the floor, feeling the ground support you, elongating that spine, maybe rolling the shoulders back. And just, if it's comfortable and safe for you, closing your eyes or finding a soft focus in front of you. We're going to start this just by noticing the natural rhythm of your breath right now. So without trying to change anything, just noticing how your breath quality, the temperature, just starting by noticing. And as with our mindfulness work, one of the things we learn that just by noticing, you're probably already changing it. You might notice it slow down. You might notice you have the urge to change. Tuning into my cues here, at the bottom of our next exhale, finding the bottom, a short hold here. We're going to take 3 quick inhales. And at the top, hold, and a long exhale, long as you can, maybe inviting some of that constriction in the back of your throat. Finding the bottom, 3 quick inhales. Exhale, nice and slow. Through your nose. Once again, 3 quick inhales. Hold at the top. Exhale, nice and slow. Take 1 or 2 rounds on your own. You feel complete, come back to the room. This one sometimes makes me a little dizzy. How was your guys' experience with that?
Yeah, a little dizzy.
Yeah.
Okay, and now is that time to find that space to move around. Maybe you need to move your computer or move some items in the room around, but I'm going to take us through some of the asana, some of those yoga poses that can help us really help regulate what's happening energetically in the body. All right, so these are some techniques, body movement techniques that we can do to kind of shift the energy when we're kind of feeling either high level or low energy. And so we'll think about low energy first. These are those times where we kind of feel just a little shrunken, kind of condensed into a space and wanting to activate a little bit of that energy. So standing poses are a great way to start off with this. And I like to do some of the power poses. So usually feet wide apart. And let's just turn one of the feet out 90 degrees. And if it feels good to bend the knee, you can just try that a few times. This other foot is facing straight ahead. The leg stays long, but we don't lock out any joints. We can just start to feel that warmth happening here. Maybe you can let the feet come a little bit wider apart. And then once you sink down, open those arms out. Open opening up the chest, dropping the shoulder blades back down. Warrior two. So feel that power in here. Inhaling, spreading those fingers out. Exhaling, sinking just a little bit lower. Inhaling, coming back up, switching over to the other side. And again, just take a little time floating in and out while you let those joints wake up and stretch. If we were likely feeling that compression feeling, the joints need a little bit of movement before we sink into the work of it. And then opening out the arms, dropping the shoulder blades, spreading those fingers, feeling that strength and the energy in warrior two. One more inhale, exhale, and bring it out. Nice. So that's one great pose that you can do. Maybe feel the energy moving now. You can see why it's a good pose to bring in to create some energy. Another great way of having kind of uplifting poses is balance poses. And so I have a chair here because sometimes our balance is not always where we want it to be, and we want to activate some of that energy. So we're going to do tree pose. So first thing we'll do is just turn your foot kind of like you were standing in a high heel. Bring it nice and close to the other foot and just let it rotate out. Just feel that hip rotation here. You can hold on to a chair, or maybe you start challenging that balance. Then we have all kinds of places we can put that foot. We just want to avoid anything into the knee. And we're going to press everything together. Hands can come to heart. If that balance is not there today, that's okay. We could do a few things. You can hold on to the chair while you do your pose, or you can put your foot on the pose and make sure that you have that openness into the hip and press into the chair. And you have that little extra bit of balance, support. You can bring in the arms. You can grow your branches tall or wide. Finding a couple of breaths in whatever option is working for you. And then we can take it out and work on the other side. So again, prepping the joint first. And then finding whether you would like to have that extra support, or find your tree. Hands to heart, find a focus point. Woo! Maybe grow the branches tall or wide. And bringing it out after a couple of breaths. And again, just tapping into what is that feeling like. Now, depending on where you are, we have some open-hearted poses. These are really great energizers. And one of them is a cobra pose. So I like to work on this more in a seated position. If you are seated and you're sitting at a table, you can practice it by placing your hands on the table and pulling the chest through. So this is a great way to kind of activate that open-hearted space, opening and creating that energy flow without necessarily getting down to the ground. Another option is, if you're standing, to pull the chest through. So what we're trying to do is pull the shoulder blades back and down, and we're still activating through these muscles here in the side to snug the shoulder blades up tight to the shoulders. So we're not trying to pull the shoulder blades out. We're trying to open up the chest. And that's what creates that energy. So brace through the core, nice and tall, chin tucks in a little bit towards the chest as we open up the chest and take a deep breath here. So those are all some options that we can do to kind of create some energy when the energy is feeling low. One other way, just to kind of get a full body kind of wake up, is our sun salutations. And so you can build up as much of the movements into a sun salutation as what feels good to you. If you're really feeling low energy and you just don't have a lot in you to be getting down on your hands and feet, then we can just start off in that nice strong mountain pose. This moves with the breath, and maybe the first thing that you do is just inhaling arms up and exhaling arms down to the side. Doing that a couple of times, noticing the sensation as you spin your hands and feel the shoulders drop, and then exhaling down. The next step is to maybe add that forward fold. As we forward fold, we're going to bend the knees, send the hips back, and let the belly come towards the thighs. So we can put our hands anywhere that feels right here. Our goal is to feel the back of the legs stretching rather than the back stretching. The back should feel relaxed. Inhaling, just slide your fingers just below your knees. Let your spine get tall, staring straight down at the ground. And then exhale, let the belly fall to the thighs. And then we inhale and bring it back up. And then exhale, feel the top of the head reaching up as the arms come down, like we're swimming upward. Let's try that again. Inhaling up, exhaling over. The longer you can make the breath go, the more fun this gets to be. Halfway lift. Really pull your hips back and feel the hamstrings stretching here. And then exhale back down. And reaching up. One more pose, and this is if you're in a space where you have the ability to put your hands down onto the ground, is just our downward dog. It's another kind of full body. And I'll just add that one in as one more option if you're feeling the energy moving and it's feeling good and you want a little more. So here we are in that mountain pose. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, folding forward. Come into that halfway lift. And now we'll bend the knees, place the hands down, and just step back and reaching your hips back. So kind of making your body into an inverted V position. You can stay here for a few breaths. Try to reach up into the fingers rather than into the wrists. And then whenever you're ready, you can look in between the hands and walk the feet forward and finish that sun salutation off. Inhaling, halfway lift. Exhaling, deep fold. Inhale, reaching up. And exhale, back to that mountain. Now, if your breath doesn't want to cooperate with moving with the body, let it do what it wants to do. Stay nice and smooth and flowing with the motion, and that's the sun salutation. Okay, high energy. we're looking to bring things down, we can use a sun salutation to actually calm things down just as easily as we can use it to bring things up. So, say we're just feeling a little agitated, hyped up, right? Coming into that mountain, maybe the first few are a little like, right? But then we start to smooth it down. And that's the way that we can use a sun salutation to be able to calm things down when we're feeling activated. I like to take these poses into a chair if we are really looking to kind of bring the energy down. So let's say you did a few sun salutations and you're feeling things calming down. You can take the sun salutation into a seated position. So this is a great way to start grounding. So now not only the feet are connected, but now the sit bones are connected, feeling a little bit more support, feeling connected to the ground in more places. Inhaling, reaching the arms up. On the exhale, folding forward. That halfway lift, we can come and just pull the chest through, and then exhale down. And then coming back up and seated. Inversions are a great way of kind of bringing things down, the energy down. There's usually a lot of compression because inversions we're folding over. If it's possible to do it in a chair, I think, again, that gives us more points of grounding, that we're able to feel that connection to the ground that brings us down. So maybe coming out to a nice wide position and just lowering down, maybe forearms onto the thighs. And maybe this is where we start. If you can think about some moments in time where you may have felt anxious, this is a great position here to begin the transition. Now we start to just round through the back and maybe lowering down depending on where your hip mobility is, taking it out nice and wide. Letting the head hang, shaking it out. So any time that we're able to kind of put our head below the heart is considered an inversion. And if that is something that you can safely do, it's a great way to just lower the energy in your body. Sometimes that compression is just as effective if we are upright. So maybe bringing the feet up into your chair and being able to curl up into a little ball, so bringing some compression. And not so much that we can't take a nice deep breath, but just feeling that rounded sensation, that curling up, and that slight compression can bring us a little sense of calm. So you can explore with which ones of those feel right for you. that actually bring on the desired effect, whether you're looking to try to generate a little more energy when you're feeling low energy, or whether you're trying to bring the energy down. There's lots of different options that you can play around with. All right, so now we're at that final part, the meditations. We have 2 of them here. And so this laughter meditation, there's a couple different ways that we can go about it. So one way is to be able to settle into your space. Let's go ahead and just try that out here. Back into your chair. Taking a few breaths. Maybe letting the eyes fall heavy or even close. If that's comfortable for you. After the next breath, maybe bring in a picture into mind of a dear friend, someone who you enjoy spending time with. Maybe see them looking at you, full of joy, maybe full of mischief, and imagine that they just begin to laugh. Maybe notice what's happening in your own face. Maybe you're starting to feel your corners of your mouth pull up, finding a little smile of your own. And then maybe bringing in a vision of yourself, maybe watching yourself in a mirror. Maybe feeling that same sense of joy and laughter coming. And as you just start to bring yourself out, just notice how you're feeling, how the muscles in your face are feeling. Maybe you're smiling. Nice. Another way of doing this one is just laughing. Go ahead and try it. Just think of something funny or just laugh. It does get infectious, so if you have a friend around, go ahead and have them join in on this laughing. This is a great way of being able to draw up the energy if you're feeling worn out or low, or even feeling some of those more sad kind of emotions. This kind of meditation can really help. So play around. Which one was more fun to do? The visualization or just the full-on laughing? All right, so next we're going to get into this deep listening meditation. Sheridan's going to take us through that. And that is when we're feeling very high energy, high strung, anxious. It could be just can't calm down, a lot of excitement or anxiety or frustration. This is a great technique. So Sheridan will take us through that.
So as you feel ready, finding yourself in a comfortable seat, soles of the feet planted firmly on the ground. For this, I'll invite you to place your hands somewhere on your body. That could be on your thighs in front of you. I like to bring one hand to my heart and one hand to my belly here. I find this to be really grounding, especially when maybe I'm feeling more amped up. I like to kind of return to this space here. Making that contact with your body and eventually softening the gaze or closing the eyes and beginning to notice the breath here and beginning to think of our breath as this vehicle into our bodies. With every inhale, noticing the belly expand, and with every exhale, a contraction. Beginning to listen to what it sounds like when the breath moves in and out of our body here. Maybe noticing which points of our breath we can hear. Maybe intentionally making our exhales and inhales audible. Beginning to exercise this idea of listening. Staying with this breath here. And in the same way that we've been listening to our breath, I'll invite you to ask yourselves, what is it that you would have me know right now? What is it you would have me know right now? There's no right or wrong. There's no one thing to be listening for. Just whatever comes up for you. It could be a body sensation. It could be a heart sensation. Or it could be something your brain wants you to know. But sitting here and really listening to whatever it is that wants to make itself known in this present moment. As always, an invitation to just stay with that breath. If you've asked yourself what needs to be known in this moment, and you've gotten your answer, returning to a few more of those audible inhales and exhales, just returning the way we came to this deep listening. Knowing that these breaths are available to you at any time. And once this feels complete for you here, maybe finding your hands on your thighs if they were on your heart and belly, beginning to bring some sensation and awareness back here, maybe wiggling those fingers and toes or giving yourself a little massage. And very, very slowly blinking the eyes open once again. Coming to our sacred space here together. Thank you.
All right, so just like with the other two workshops, there's that reflection that we want to do post practice. We just worked on several techniques, and now is a great time to really reflect what maybe we got out of them and what are some of the obstacles, what are some of the things that are going to get in our way of actually accessing these when we need them. So if you're doing this workshop with a friend side by side, maybe pausing the video and having this discussion about what are the obstacles that you might have. Maybe sharing that with your friend opens up the door of recognizing a lot more that might get in our way. We all have lots of things that get in our way. And then we have that worksheet here. So focusing on the techniques that we worked on in our workshop number 3. How do you feel that these daily mindfulness practices may help? So thinking about the different types, and we moved into that asana, maybe you felt something different with that. So what could these techniques really offer you if you did them on a daily basis? 10 minutes. Then recognizing those obstacles to not just meditation, but any of those techniques, any of those mindfulness techniques. It's funny to kind of catch the things that our mind says to keep us from doing those things. So really finding out and exploring and being curious about what keeps us from doing these things that we know will be beneficial. And then putting it into a plan. Number 3, here's my plan to add more into my day. And so maybe you have a designated time every day that you'll set aside, or maybe you'll have a calendar and you'll have fun sprinkling different things in. What is your plan that you're going to be doing? And this will be that translation into your homework that you'll be doing. So this is a great way keeping that in mind of how that might spread across those 4 weeks. And now we've come to that practice teaching. So again, if you are taking this with a friend, go ahead and pause the video and pick a couple of techniques to teach each other. If you're taking this solo, please take that teaching practice out to some friends or family or trusted people that you can work with and really get this practice of what it feels like to teach these techniques to other people. So when you do it, especially if you have a partner who's doing the training with you, just remember about that feedback to give to your partner, something that you liked about how they did the technique, something that maybe they could try the next time. We're all looking for growth. That's kind of why we're here and taking this course, right? And then giving some encouragement. And if you are doing this solo, then think about these questions towards yourself. What did you like about teaching the different techniques? Maybe in reflection, did you notice something where you're like, it would be probably if I tried it this way, it might work a little more fluidly for me. And then congratulate yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back for stepping outside of the box to teach this and recognizing what a gift it is to offer to other people. And finally, we're going to end with that metta meditation, our loving kindness practice. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the words. So for the purposes of this workshop, these words are the same for each one. And that can really just help for it to become easier to be able to read or recite without having to have it in front of you. So let's all settle in to our seat, and we'll come back to that calmer space, maybe feeling your feet on the ground, maybe wiggling your toes a little bit and really feeling the stability of the ground underneath of your feet. Sitting in that chair, feeling the parts of the body that are touching the chair and feeling the support of the chair. Letting the shoulders drop down and just feeling that opening through the front of the chest as we start to settle into the breath. If it feels comfortable to close the eyes, I'll invite you to do that. And if you'd prefer to keep them open, maybe settling them down in a spot that's just a couple of feet in front of you, maybe at the edge of a table or the bottom of your computer screen. Just let the eyes start to fall heavy. As you bring that awareness of the breath, the inhales and the exhales, the expansion and the release of each breath. Perhaps you start to notice the difference of energy between the inhale and the exhale. Maybe noticing the newness or excitement of each inhale as it expands the lungs. Maybe feeling that softness through the release of the exhale. As we allow the breath continue at its own pace, I'll invite you to bring your awareness to the center of your chest, that space where the heart resides. And as you keep your focus on that space, I'll invite you to recall an image of yourself at any time throughout your life. Maybe it's a time when you were happy, felt loved, or maybe it was a time where you felt in need. Whichever memory comes up, allow that image of yourself to just settle into that space of the heart. Don't need to go down any storylines here. This is about the connection to that person in that moment. Holding them in your heart. I'll invite you to silently repeat. May I feel forgiveness. May I feel happiness. May I feel love. May all my sufferings be healed. May I feel at peace. just staying with the breath, allowing yourself to acknowledge any thoughts or emotions that come up without judgment. No expectations, just noticing what is. As we continue staying with that connection of the breath, focused on that space where the heart resides. I'll invite you to start opening up that space of the heart to others. Perhaps your mind thinks of loved ones, friends, family, parents, pets. Maybe your mind starts to think about coworkers or acquaintances that maybe you felt a connection to. Invite them into that space. Allow yourself to even contemplate some of those that you may have difficult times with, and maybe in this moment finding a space for them. Inviting them in. As we return to our metta, saying silently to yourself, may we all feel forgiveness. May we all feel happiness. May we all feel love. May everyone's sufferings be healed. May we all feel peace. And gently begin to bring that breath awareness maybe a little bit deeper on the inhale and exhale, allowing yourself just to notice what thoughts or emotions that have come up. Allowing yourself just to be the passive observer of those, avoiding any types of judgments or expectations or rabbit holes. As we start to move the hands, maybe move the shoulders or the neck. If your eyes are closed, maybe start bringing those back open. Just taking a moment to acknowledge the practice. That connection to compassion, to ourselves, to others. I thank you for joining me. I'd like to just move into the final pieces of our workshop here. All right, so just remembering that homework is documenting your own practices, contemplating, reflecting on what it is that you got out of each one. You're welcome to track with the PDF that's attached to the training, the homework, so that you can have all that information available when you go into the online link. So just remembering, you will identify which of the 3 workshops you did. This is our emotional regulation. That request to spend 10 minutes a day practicing 1 or 2 techniques and doing this reflection for a full 4 weeks. So each of the weeks you'll just identify which practice you did that week, reflecting on what you felt to do the practices, how you see it may benefit you over time, and how you might be able to benefit others by sharing this. And then at the end of the 4 weeks, there's that full reflection about overall what practices you found that were most helpful and why, and thinking a little bit more towards how to share these techniques with others. All right, so just remembering, hop in, submit that homework after the end of that 4 weeks. You will receive a certificate for each of the 3 workshops, and then one for the entire series. If you would like to facilitate these workshops, and if you are a Yoga Alliance certified registered yoga teacher and you would like these CECs, then there is a 4th video, the facilitator training video, that goes over a little bit more about how to actually run these trainings. And you will submit that information through the provided link, and you will get those CECs and that facilitator certificate. Thank you for joining us on this mindfulness journey, and happy mindfulness.